Hey, what's going on, everybody? I'm Lawrence Owen with Colts Law, and I am going to explain that. Sorry, I had to hit the pause button on the streams because I was getting my echo. It's the bye week. We don't have a game to play this week, so we're not going to do a pregame like we normally do on Fridays. However, I brought with me YouTube personality Swaggy right here, who is a Colts fan, believe it or not. And he's going to come in and help me break down a little bit about what's been going on through the first 6 weeks, kind of grade, go over some disappointments and some surprises that we've seen over the first 6 weeks, and then look to the future, to the rest of the season, and see, just kind of decide, hey, man, what are we going to do? We got something good coming up with the Colts, or is what we've seen going to foretell some bad stuff? I don't know. I hope that all of you here are watching and are getting ready to join into the conversation. As we're talking about specific bullet points, feel free, say something. And then after each bullet point, we'll get to the questions individually. That way we can keep this moving along efficiently. So, Swaggy, thanks for joining the stream. I appreciate you being here, my guy.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it. So, yeah, I'm a Colts fan. I make YouTube videos on them. Just ready to get into it. Overall, I think the team has looked really good. Of course, there's been some disappointments, but sitting at 4-2, we're in a great spot to make a run at a playoff wild card, possibly. So that's all you can ask for.
Yep. Hey, why don't you go ahead and give a little bit of time, introduce yourselves, let people know what you do and where they can find you.
Yeah, so you can find me at YouTube at Swaggy, just one word. My Instagram is Ya Bets Believe. And for a living, I'm actually a college student as well, and I work part-time on the side too.
Awesome. Good. Awesome. All right. So as people that know me, I'm an official analyst for sportscaster.com. You can find me at Lawrence Owen NFL and the Lawrence Owen Network on Sportscaster. Obviously, you can find me at Colts Law, Colts_Law on Twitter and on Instagram, and of course, Lawrence Owen on YouTube. Now, I have a few things that we want to go over when it comes to the first 6 games, because we've had some highs, we've had some lows, we've had injuries. Let's talk about disappointments through the first 6 weeks. Obviously, in my opinion, some of the biggest disappointments is just straight up the injuries, right? Marlon Mack getting hurt, out for the season right off the bat. Man with that torn Achilles. Malik Hooker gets his Achilles torn. We have Michael Pittman Jr. Out with that calf injury. He had 2 surgeries on that. And then, of course, Paris Campbell with the PCL injury on his knee. What are some of the biggest disappointments that you have seen so far this year?
I'd say the injuries are a big part of it, but I'm looking at even guys that are on the field. T.Y. Hilton, he's a guy that he's one of my favorite players in, not on the Colts, but in football. And he hasn't had a big game in almost 2 years now. I'm waiting for him to come out, have a breakout game, because without that deep threat down the field, the offense, there's not much to it. So he's a big part, man. We need to get him going. I'd say he's probably the biggest disappointment.
See, I sat here and I thought about T.Y. because you brought that up to me a little bit earlier before the stream yesterday. And I went over this with Jake Arthur and a few other guys as well. And T.Y. runs routes a little bit odd, a little differently than most wide receivers, right? He adjusts his route mid-route to find where he needs to be open because of how small and slim he is, and he uses his skill sets to his advantages to get open. But because he's a different style of route runner, it's difficult for new quarterbacks to get adjusted to that, to be able to throw to where they believe he might be at on the field. Andrew Luck already knew that prior to, with working with him over seasons and seasons and seasons of playing. Last year, it was Jacoby Brissett. And it took an entire, you had the first, 6-7 weeks with him. He kind of got T.Y. in a little bit. Then he got hurt. He was out for a while. They probably, and then T.Y. obviously was dealing with some injuries late in the season as well. And then this year, you got Phillip Rivers, another new quarterback who's got to come in and learn how T.Y. runs routes as well. I don't know if T.Y. is less of a player now than what he was 3-4 years ago. I just think it has a lot to do with his injuries over the past couple seasons. And then this year, you got Phillip Rivers, who's still trying to learn how he runs routes and where he could throw to get him open. I think later in the season, as long as T.Y. stays healthy, I think T.Y. will end up having those big games that you come to expect from him, at least 5 or 6 times a year, right?
Yeah, and you have to think there was a touchdown that was called back against him, a ball down the field that he dropped. It's not like he's done absolutely nothing. He's been more of a decoy at this point. I look at T.Y. Hilton. He's a Pro Bowl caliber receiver that is a huge part of this offense. He's one of the only players on this team that has that deep threat capability. So if we can get him more involved in the offense to open it up for other guys, I think it would be beneficial moving forward.
Another thing that I think is a slight disappointment right now is the running game. We really haven't. We've had like one game that we've ran 100 yards, a 100-yard rusher when Jonathan Taylor broke 100 yards. That it kind of hurts. Obviously, the loss of Marlon Mack hurts massively. But Jonathan Taylor, still a rookie, still young, and he still has to learn how to make what he does well very effective at the level he's playing now in the NFL against guys that are bigger, stronger, faster, as opposed to what he did in college. And he also has to learn his offensive. I mean, he had his offensive line over there in college for those 3 years, and he did fine. But he had that consistency. The offensive line knew how to block in front of him, how he liked to be blocked for, and he knew how they were blocking. Now he's got to learn that with the Indianapolis Colts. Again, something I think that over the next few weeks, we could see Jonathan Taylor start to have those big games. But that comes down to Frank Reich calling run plays, does it not? I mean, does he quit? Does it seem like to you that Frank Reich kind of gives up on calling run plays sometimes?
Yeah, absolutely. That was the first thing I was going to bring up is you look at Jonathan Taylor's carries, 12 against the Bengals, 12 against the Browns, 17 against the Bears. He's a guy that needs to be getting more carries than that. I mean, 17's all right, but 12 is too little for a caliber player of Jonathan Taylor. He needs to get more, man. I'd say around the 17 to 20 range every game is where he needs to be.
And then, of course, we have Nyheim Hines, where we were seeing a lot of Nyheim Hines carrying the football out on the field rather than Jonathan Taylor. And Nyheim Hines is not necessarily your best running back to be running between the tackles with. I get that you want him to be out there on the field for your third downs. And if you just bring him in instead of Jonathan Taylor, then you kind of tip your hat to what you're wanting to do on that third down. You know you're going to end up throwing the football, and most likely it'll be to Nyheim Hines. But there's times when he's had 9, 10, 11, more as much or more carries than Jonathan Taylor, you know. Do you think that maybe Frank Reich is kind of utilizing Nyheim in a little too much, maybe in the wrong way?
Yeah, I mean, I get his perspective. He's trying to get multiple backs into this offense, but right now you've got to give Jonathan Taylor the ball. He's the lead back. He's talented, man. This is a guy that I expect to be a Colt for a very long time. I think Hines, he's more of a receiving back. He's smaller, he's quick, elusive, so we need to get him into position to win and succeed. Right, running up the middle, that is not Nyheim Hines' game at all. No,
I don't think so. Now, Jordan Wilkins, I believe that you could take him about anywhere running the football. I don't think he's as good catching the football out of the backfield as Nyheim Hines, obviously, but he's shown last year when he was backing up Marlon Mack that as a relief back, he's very, very good. I mean, he leads the NFL the last 2 seasons with yards per carry for any running back with at least 50 carries or more in a season. I mean, he's averaging nearly 6 yards a carry. So I think that Jordan Wilkins should be that guy that should get a little bit more of the relief carries rather than Nyheim Hines. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think Jordan Wilkins has looked great the past few years. He definitely deserves more carries, but it shouldn't play into Jonathan Taylor's production, though, because he's a guy that he's a receiving back. That was something him coming out of college. A lot of people said that he wouldn't be able to catch the ball and get yards per carry, all that. and he's showing them all wrong. Jonathan Taylor, he's a guy that is the future of this team. We need to give him the ball more. And
yeah, I agree. Another disappointment that I have is offensive line depth, right? We had that one game where we had one offensive lineman out, and it was our left tackle, Anthony Costanzo, and we had to put LaRaven Clark in, and the drop-off in talent was vastly apparent at that situation. Rivers was constantly under pressure, constantly hounded. There was always someone in the backfield against the run game, and I think that is something that the Colts really need to address. Do you think that it's an immediate need to where they should actually be looking to do something before the trade deadline, or do you think that this is something that we could put on the back burner for the draft this year?
To me, it's the back burner. I feel like with the Colts, they have a very good offensive line. Injuries happen. There's nothing you can do about it. If I'm looking for something to go out and get at the deadline, I'm looking at a receiver. AJ Green, I think, could be a very good fit for the Colts. I know people have been saying that. That's the type of thing you need to go out and get at the deadline.
Okay. There's also been some speculation with other players in the NFL before the trade deadline. A couple that come to mind, Sam Darnold and Daniel Jones even has been in the mix. What are your thoughts on the Colts possibly going out and taking a look at them?
I mean, I understand it. For me, Phillip Rivers did look good last week. We know his age. He's, 39 years old. He's a guy that the Colts have been hiding him a lot this season, so we know he doesn't have the arm to really throw the ball down the field. But if he can continue to just limit his turnovers, because all the games the Colts have won, Phillip Rivers has not really turned the ball over. So if he can play like that, I think he's a guy that we can roll out. But if you can get a Sam Darnold or a guy of that caliber at a reasonable price, you have to do it if you're the Colts. Let's also not forget that we have Jacoby Brissett and Jacob Eason even, who are both caliber quarterbacks that instead of going and getting a Sam Darnold, we could plug out there and see what they can do.
Yeah. I don't have a problem with Phillip Rivers this year or maybe even next year. The issue that I have seen and is a disappointment is his arm strength. Going north and south with passes is there. He could throw 50-yard bombs still. No problem. We've seen that last week. The problem is getting it on little like inside hook routes and stuff along the sidelines, trying to get the ball there fast enough before the corner can close in and make a play on the football. He just doesn't have the zip in order to get those balls in there that quick. So as long as it's footballs are thrown somewhere around the hashes or inside, I think he's fantastic. And that's why the loss of, I think, Paris Campbell hurts so much, because Paris Campbell was that 6 foot 4.2 speed guy that could run those crossing patterns and those drag routes right in front of Rivers, to where Rivers could just dump the ball off and allow him to get yards after catch, like what we saw against Jacksonville before he got hurt. If you had a choice between the two wide receivers that got hurt earlier this year to come back first, which one would it be? Would it be Pittman or would it be Campbell?
It's got to be Michael Pittman. He looked great when he was out there. The chemistry clicked right away. He saw the most targets out of all the receivers, I want to say, that game. So yeah, he's a guy that you can put out there. He's very athletic, has good hands. He could help this offense right now.
All right. Let's move on. Well, let's see if we got any questions in here. Jason Davis says Sam Darnold, I don't think will be available till the end of the year, but I don't believe Ballard will go after Darnold. They're talking about a second-round pick for Darnold. And to be fair, that's kind of where Ballard lives, though, isn't it? I mean, he uses second-round picks and grabs just fantastic players. Smith, Leonard, Toure, all these guys are second-round picks. But if you have a chance, a second-round pick for a guy of Sam Darnold's quality,
yeah, you
kind of got to pull the trigger on that, don't you?
To me, I would put Sam Darnold right on the caliber tier as a Josh Allen. I think they're very similar. They can scramble. They can pass. If you can get him for a second-round pick, I know you're already paying Brissett and Rivers, but they're on expiring contracts. So if you can get Sam Darnold for a second-round pick, absolutely, you have to take that.
Okay. Okay, let's go to the next thing that we were talking about. Surprises the first 6 weeks. Hey, Swaggy, what is the biggest surprise? I can take a wild guess here, but what is the biggest surprise that you have seen from the Indianapolis Colts through the first 6 weeks of the season?
I mean, of course, it's the defense, but in terms of just one player, I got to go to Xavier Rhodes on this one. He's just been a monster. This guy, look at his completion percentage allowed. 41.4%. Last season, he was at 83.5. His passer rating is 46.6. Those are just ridiculous numbers. This is a guy that a lot of people said was washed. The Colts went out and grabbed him, and he's done nothing but just lock down opposing wide receivers.
See, I don't know. I had a film room breakdown when we went and grabbed Xavier Rhodes. I did a film room breakdown of Xavier Rhodes for his past 2 years while he was with the Vikings when they said, he was washed. Because 2017, he obviously was an all-pro. And when I was going through all the all-22 film, I was realizing something. When he was healthy at the beginning of the year, Rhodes was top-notch corner. And then he would get hurt. And it would be like a calf injury or a hamstring or an ankle. And the Vikings would not take him off the field. They would still play him and make him play through lingering injuries because they didn't have anyone backing him up that was worth a darn. And he got burnt bad because of those injuries. Now that he's with the Colts and he is fully healthy, he's playing at that level that I saw before. And as long as the Colts, if he does acquire an injury, let him heal. We've got TJ Carey in the background if we need, I think is good enough to step in if Rhodes gets injured to let him heal up so that he'll be healthy 100% when he does play. What about DeForest Buckner? Do you think DeForest Buckner is has his play surprised you, or has it less of a surprise, or is it something more along the rounds of where you expected?
He's been better than I expected. I know he was a huge part of that Niners front seven, but this guy, his leading the league in quarterback hits. He just looks phenomenal out there. He cannot be contained one-on-one. And that's something that the Colts needed heading into this season was ability to get to the quarterback and rush the quarterback. And he's filled in. He's done better than I expected. He looks better than what we gave up. A first-round pick is a steal for a player of his caliber.
Oh, yeah. You don't get guys of that caliber at the 16th pick of the draft. I mean, unless you're darn lucky like getting Leonard, in the second round. It's just something that does not happen. Any other surprises that you have seen? Pleasant surprises, maybe?
Let me take a look. I got their team up right now. Maybe Marcus Johnson. He's filled in the past few weeks. He's a guy that didn't really expect to do much.
No. He looked pretty good last week, actually, against the Bengals.
Even Zach Pascal. Some of these receivers have stepped up and been really quality weapons for Philip Rivers to throw to. He scored last week.
Outside of his injury, I think Mo Alley Cox has been a very big, nice surprise. We all knew that he could block, and he showed flashes over the last couple years here and there. But he had a 2-game stretch before he got injured where he was just out there making play after play after play. And I think that that's a big bonus that the Colts now have 3 decent tight ends. That's pretty impressive. I think Bobby Okereke has really overstepped what I expected him to be doing in his sophomore season as well.
Yeah, I know him and Leonard were having a competition on who's the faster linebacker. And I'd love to see that if I could. Both of them just have unhuman-like speed at the linebacker position.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, I think the Colts linebacking core between Leonard and Anthony Walker and Bobby Okereke, when all 3 of them are on the field in the base defense, is probably the best linebacking core in football currently. Anthony Walker is faster than you expect him to be, better against the pass than he was last year. And obviously he knows how to read an offense, and he knows what play is happening before the ball's even snapped. It seems like if you watch, he's breaking for where the ball's going to be before the ball's even sent there. And that's impressed me a lot about Anthony Walker. I can't wait to see Leonard back and have this team healthy defensively, especially hopefully they stay healthy because the Baltimore Ravens are coming right after the Lions, and we're going to need that defense. All right. We'll see what else we got here. Faye says he thinks that we could beat the Ravens. I think we can. I think we got the personnel to do it. It's the big thing is coaching. It's play calling. We've had some up and downs in play calling when it comes to offensively and defensively. It seems like to me, I think Matt Eberflus is doing a much better job when it comes to making adjustments, and he's doing them faster than he used to. Whereas before you would not see those adjustments till halftime. Now you're starting to see him. Heck, last week we saw him right after the first quarter, right? And we saw him make those adjustments, and then it was a lockdown on the Bengals. The Bengals just did not look like the same team at all. But there's been some questionable play calls by Frank Reich over the first 6 weeks. Is there any hesitation on your part with Frank Reich right now, or do you think that's just something that happens and just take the good with the bad?
I have no concerns about Frank Reich. We know what he brings to the table each and every week. He's going to get criticized for making some plays that are aggressive. I love him, though. It will get better. He's still a young coach. We just got him a few years ago. He'll be fine. Yeah,
I kind of sit in the same spot. This is the first time he's been head coaching. I think he's done well as a first-time head coach, and now going into his third season. So overall grades through the first 6 weeks. Let's give like the passing game, the running game, and then the pass defense and the run defense, and then coaching in general. What kind of grade would you give overall through the first 6 weeks for the passing attack of the Indianapolis Colts?
Not great. I don't even think you could give it a B right now.
Maybe a C plus?
C plus.
That seems about fair to me. I think so too. How about the running game?
B plus.
The running game's been there. They just haven't been utilized. Yeah. So that goes into more of a coaching thing than anything because of play calls. Run defense.
Oh, you got to give that an A plus, maybe even.
Yeah, run defense right now, the Indianapolis Colts are third in the NFL in run defense, total yardage and yardage per game. Pass defense.
I think you could go, I'd say probably B plus to an A.
See, they still have the number one pass defense in the NFL yardage-wise, and they lead the NFL in interceptions with 10 so far on the season.
I do have one issue with the Colts for their pass defense. I know statistically they are the best, but one thing is that I'm not sure if they can go man. It's like once they go against a team that has some high-caliber receivers, I'm not sure if they can man them down, especially without Darius Leonard.
Well, I don't know. We'll have to see that. When they played against the Browns, the second half, there was a lot of man coverage in that, believe it or not. But what they were doing very well was hiding exactly what kind of coverage they were doing. They would line up, make it look like man coverage, and then when the ball was hiked, they would pull off into like a cover 3 zone. And that's where you would see those knockdown passes or the interceptions that Baker Mayfield was giving up in the second half was because of how well they were concealing their pass defense, which I think really plays well into the coaching aspect of Matt Eberflus. Speaking of coaching, see, I would give the pass defense an A, just a flat A, not an A plus, not an A, just A. I think they could have done a little bit better in certain aspects, like you say, but I think that overall they've done a fantastic job. Overall coaching, offensively and defensively, when it comes to play calls and making sure they have the right personnel and that everything of that nature. Where would you go with overall coaching? We'll go offensive coaching first.
I think the offensive coaching, you'd probably have to put that around a B. We know Taylor deserves more carries. I mean, overall, there's not much to do offensively because you have Phillip Rivers, who hasn't exactly been the greatest. We know he works in the system, but just throwing the ball down the field, that's an issue for the Colts moving forward. Is when you go against teams like the Bengals that can put points on the board, can they keep up with that? Like, we can have the best defense in football, but if we can't put points on the board, it doesn't matter.
I'll go with a B as well. Yeah, there has been some questionable calls and definitely play calls that I would have went a little bit. I think there was times, even last week, yes, Phillip Rivers threw the ball like crazy, but after the first half was over with, the Colts were well within a shot. Once they stopped the Browns on their first drive, I felt as though the Colts should have kind of went more towards the run a little bit more to try to eat up clock and not allow the Bengals to get a foothold and possibly find their way back on offense. We won, but only because of late heroics by Julian Blackmon. Defensive coaching.
AA plus. It's the reason why we're 4-2 right now.
I have to fully agree. I think that Eberflus has been putting the guys in the right spots at the right times, making the right calls. I don't necessarily, and I sound like a broken record on this year, the 2020 season, I do not count week 1. I don't count week 1 for any team in the NFL because I feel as though that was kind of the preseason game for every team, for them to get to not only know them, the other team that they're playing, but to know themselves and figure out their own identity against a team that wasn't them, that they were practicing against on a day-to-day basis. So, well, let's anything that you would like to go over that we've seen over the past 6 weeks that we haven't covered that you wouldn't mind bringing up?
Yeah, I saw a question earlier saying that we have a chance to beat the Ravens. And honestly, can you say confidently that the Ravens are a better team than the Colts right now? They haven't looked great. You can't. I feel like the Colts are a very good matchup for the Ravens. They run the ball. They have a defense that can hang with the Ravens. And once again, Lamar Jackson, past few games, 52 completion percentage, 53. He hasn't even really looked better than Phillip Rivers. We're talking about throwing the ball, of course. Yeah.
And when it comes to the run D, like we already established, the Colts run D has been absolutely phenomenal, and the Ravens live and die on the run. So I think that definitely kind of their skill sets fall into our strengths. So I think we really do have a very good chance of beating the Ravens as long as we're healthy when we get there. That's the scary part. Let's see here. Michael Pittman got engaged. Oh, wow. I did not realize that.
Yeah, I did see that.
I didn't see that myself. Let's go into, well, congratulations, Michael Pittman, on your engagement. I know you've been with her forever. Expectations for the rest of the season. We're coming out of a bye week. There is a chance that we could have either Michael Pittman Jr. back. There's a chance that we're going to hear something about, we will be hearing something about Paris Campbell and where his trajectory and maybe it coming back. And then, of course, Kimoko Toure. We already talked about the wide receivers, but how excited would you be if you heard next week, hey, Kimoko Toure is coming off the PUP list, we're going to start playing him?
He's just another piece to put out there for an already very good defense.
Yeah.
You know what he can do. When you give him a chance, he's dangerous out there. He can get to the quarterback.
Yeah, he's very fast, good bend off the edge. I mean, I think he led the NFL last year through the first 5 weeks before he had that horrific ankle injury. Led the NFL in quarterback pressure percentage. So that's a big deal. The Colts right now, though, are actually pretty good at pressures, but they're not doing a very good job getting home. So we need to be able to find a way of getting home. But then again, when you've got guys like Baker Mayfield who can run the football and Sam Darnold who can run the football, Joe Burrow, they all been able to really scramble very well, right? Gardner Minshew able to get away. Matt Stafford is not as – he's more of pocket quarterback. He can run, but he's not known for it. He's more known for being a pocket quarterback that can just throw the heck out of the football. Jason David says he's more excited about Trey than Paris Campbell. He loves Paris Campbell. So, of course, we're going to get Darius Leonard back as well. I mean, I don't think that we're going to see him go through a groin injury for 4 straight weeks. But back to the rest of the expectations. What are some expectations that you have? Some things that you're hoping the Colts might change up a little bit for the rest of the season? Things that might get better, things you think might come back down to earth, things of that nature. What are you looking for the Indianapolis Colts as a whole?
Run the damn ball. That's where it starts, honestly. Get Jonathan Taylor more touches. Try to mix in Nyheim Hines and Jordan Wilkins the best that you can. Also, get T.Y. Hilton going because he's a guy that he's just so talented. He's the same player he was, in my opinion, 2-3 years ago. We just need to fit him into the system and try to get him open.
I agree. I would love to see I think once Jonathan Taylor learns, it seems to me like he has tunnel vision when he has the football. Not as bad as, say, a certain Mr. Trent Richardson that we used to have, but it seems like at times you'll see him run right at, and this was a big knock I had on him in his college tape. He'll run right to where he's supposed to run, whether there's a hole there or not, and just think that he can, with his body size and strength, just push the pile, squeeze through, and then go. And you can't really do that with the NFL. And I'm waiting on him to realize this and decide to start breaking things out, like cutting off to the side or taking off towards the sideline or something, like things that you see Nyheim Hines and Marlon Mack, what they used to be able to do and do very, very well. If Jonathan Taylor gets that in his repertoire, he's going to be an incredibly dangerous back in the NFL. T.Y. Hilton, yes, I'm expecting, I've already said it, I expect T.Y. Hilton to get a lot more into a rhythm with Phillip Rivers. You've seen last week he got a few passes in. I think you'll start to see it more and more as the season rolls on. I just can't wait. Expectations, health. I'm hoping that we get at least one of the 2 wide receivers back. I'm hoping we get Kamilko Toure back, and if we get those guys back, I think the Colts are going to be very solid. I'm worried about injuries, though. We had those injuries in the first half of the season, but we haven't had a devastating injury yet. And every team in the NFL seems like they've had a devastating injury so far, right? Whether it's their starting quarterback or their load runner like Christian McCaffrey or Saquon Barkley or something like that. I mean, yes, we had Marlon Mack, but we had Jonathan Taylor, luckily. I'm afraid that in the second half, something like that may happen. And I'm hoping that Indy will be able to pull that next man up like they've done with the wide receiver core that they've had to do the last couple seasons. Do you expect the Colts defense to continue staying at the level, playing at the level that they have been? Or do you think that they might start to level off a little bit with maybe competition, maybe rising a little bit?
I feel like the Colts defense is going to stay how it's been. This linebacker core is just so fast. They tackle. And for the Colts, honestly, I'm not even concerned about injuries because it's just next man up in this organization. Someone is going to, like Julian Blackmon came in. He's a top 10 safety right now in football, the best rookie safety. And Willie Cooker, of course, the Colts didn't give him the rookie deal. So he might not even be back next year. Who knows? But yeah, the defenses look great. They hustle. We know that it's something that Matt Eberflus emphasizes is just to hustle and to make a tackle. Because whenever someone chucks the ball down to a running back or a receiver, there's always not even one Colt. There's 3 or 4 Colts right on it. So I expect them to keep it up.
Yeah, that whole mob mentality that they have on defense is just so inspiring every time you see it. I kind of agree, but at the same time, we still have the Pittsburgh Steelers to play. We have the Baltimore Ravens, but like you say, the Baltimore hasn't looked like Baltimore of last year. The Houston Texans passing attack is dangerous. They don't have much of a running attack, but they got a very dangerous passing attack. Obviously, Tennessee right now is firing on all cylinders all the way around the football. Ryan Tannehill, actually, in my opinion, is if it wasn't for Russell Wilson playing the way he's been playing, he's playing at an MVP level right now. Russell Wilson is being kind of overlooked because of what Aaron Rodgers did and what Russell Wilson and Josh Allen. But Josh Allen's fallen off a little bit over the past couple weeks. Aaron Rodgers, obviously, against Tampa Bay kind of fell off, but Russell Wilson's still way up there. But Ryan Tannehill's been playing out of his mind. So that worries me a little bit. When it comes to the division, where do you think we're going to end up in the division wise? When it comes to, we still have to play both Tennessee and Houston twice and Jacksonville one more time.
To be honest, I feel like the Colts going to win the division. I think they're just as good as Tennessee. They have to fix some things, and we know the Titans have looked great. But one thing, to beat the Titans, if you can take out Derrick Henry, now of course you're not going to hold Derrick Henry to 40 rushing yards, but if you can hold him to under 100 rushing yards, I feel like the Colts can win that game.
Okay.
And their defense isn't great either. It's not bad, but it's what, average, mediocre. So,
well, they have a good run defense, and they've got a pass. I mean, if I remember right, ain't they a top 10 defense in the NFL overall? I think so. I may be wrong.
I mean, look what the Texans did to it last week.
But I've been saying all year that the Houston Texans passing attack is incredible. Is more dangerous this year than it was last year with DeAndre Hopkins. Not that I'm saying that they're better without DeAndre. I'm just saying that overall they're a better team because of the multiple weapons and the fact that Deshaun Watson has to go through his progressions. The thing is, I think that the Texans were tanking to get rid of Bill O'Brien that first month. I think that's the biggest issue. They've looked good the last 2 weeks. Ever since Bill O'Brien's been gone and Romeo Crennel's been the head coach, the interim head coach, that offense has been looked like they've been on fire. So I would not count the Texans out, even though they have a very big time losing record right now. I wouldn't count them out. Remember, just a couple of years ago, the Colts started out 1-5, and what they ended up doing, they ended up going to the playoffs, right? So
yeah. I'm sorry, but I'll say on this live stream right now, the Houston Texans are 100% done. And if I'm wrong, you can come back to this and call me out. I'll own up to it. But first of all, they have no O-line. They have one good guy on the line. Their defense is 30th in run, so they can't stop the run. And I don't care. I mean, Jason Watson, we know what he brings to the table, but the only reason you've seen their passing attack really be so good is just because Brandon Cooks is a guy they're trying to sell on. They've been throwing to him 10 plus times a game the past few weeks because they know that they want to get something in return. Even the Texans, they know that they don't have the talent to compete against the Colts and Titans. There's no way. That's just my opinion, but they're just too incomplete of a team.
Oh, yeah, they definitely have a bunch of holes on the team. I just think that they have a very dangerous passing attack. I'm not saying they got a great running game. I don't think that they got a great offensive line. They have a pass rush. Between J.J. Watt and Whitney Merciless, they are a dangerous pass rush. But their secondary is shot, and as you said, their run defense is not good at all. What about Jacksonville? What's your thoughts on Jacksonville for the next time I think we play them week 17?
I mean, they're a team that they're going to come at the Colts. They want to beat them. It's a divisional rivalry. At the same time, though, even the Jaguars, I don't think much highly of them. I know they beat us in the first week, but they've got some good young players. James Robinson came out of nowhere, undrafted running back. I want to say that he just looks phenomenal. We know DJ Chark, what he brings, a guy like Chenault, Laviska Shenault, of course, the rookie second round that they got. I do like the Jaguars, but once again, they're not a very good football team. Sorry.
No, they've lost too many key players off their defense. Right? Huh?
They lost to the Lions, right? Like pretty bad last week.
Yeah.
So the Lions have not looked like a good football team. So if they not
well, I mean, they did lose a lot of big key pieces off their defense. Yannick Ngakoue obviously gone. Calais Campbell playing his heart out over on the Ravens. Calais Campbell's been the best defensive player on the Ravens defense this year, by far, you know. So, who was it? Was it they lost a big corner too, if I remember right?
Well, of course they traded Ramsey. We know
but that was last season. I think they traded off another one, or let him go this past off season.
Boye?
Was it Boye?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's hard to keep up with Boye. He's on the Titans 1 minute, and then he's on the Jaguars, then he's somewhere else. You never know where he's at anymore. So you got the Colts winning the division, even though right now we're sitting at 4-2, and the Titans are kind of sitting on top of the division. You feel as though we got a shot at beating them out?
I'm not worried about the Titans. I know they're what they bring. They have Derrick Henry. Tannehill's looked like an MVP, but the Colts, if they can put everything together, they're not only going to win the division, in my opinion, I think they can go to the Super Bowl. I know that sounds crazy to say, but I have a lot of faith in this team.
Yeah, I think that we just need to get I think Rivers needs to get a little bit more comfortable with his receivers. Maybe, like I said, if we get one of those receivers back that are injured, and then Jonathan Taylor, obviously, I think he needs to just find that next level to his running game. And generally, that's something that happens in the second half of a rookie season rather than the first half, where he gets to get more comfortable with his O-line and his blocking schemes. Let's see. Run first, original plan. Not an option without Mac. Changed the situation. Now we need the run to be less predictable. That is what Brian says, that we're using the run to be less predictable with the passing game rather than running the ball first. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I get it. You have to mix it up. If you have a quarterback like Phillip Rivers, you have to somewhat hide him. He's 39 years old. We know what he brings. He has high IQ. He's going to make the right plays, usually. But if you're the Colts, you have this offensive line. You have Jonathan Taylor, who's a young up-and-coming running back. Even if the team knows you're running the ball, we saw last season with Marlon Mack, a team would be like, they're running it, and they still couldn't stop it. So we need to get back to that and be a run-first team. A team like the Cleveland Browns, what they do with Baker Mayfield. I mean, yeah, they have Kareem Hunt and Chubb, but still, I mean, if we can get to that caliber where we can run maybe play action with Rivers and try to get him I don't know, he's not an out-of-the-pocket quarterback, but if we can just mix in these type of schemes, I think it would help us moving forward.
Yeah, I think so. I think that being a run-first team still is not out of the options for the Indianapolis Colts. I think it's still something they can do because this team has the offensive line to make that happen. You've seen what happened with Dallas this year. They've lost basically their entire offensive line now. They can't run the ball for nothing with Ezekiel Elliott, but their offensive line is trashed. So, yeah, we have the offensive line. Use it.
And even to expand on that, you have to think if the Colts want to be where they want to be, they have to run the ball because they're not outscoring a team like the Chiefs or a team like the Steelers, even the Titans. I don't think they can outscore them. So if we can just run the clock, we know what the defense brings. That's how we're going to win games because Phillip Rivers cannot be throwing 30 to 40 times a game. It's just not going to get it done.
Well, think about how, so our defense is based off of speed, right? Lots and lots of speed at all three levels of the defense. And in order to keep that speed maximized, they need to be fresh through the game. And if you're out there throwing the ball around on offense and scoring quickly, then you're putting your defense on the field more, and they're going to wear down as the game moves on in the second half. They won't be nearly as effective as they was the first half because they're worn out and tired. So if you run the football, that keeps your defense fresh. It keeps the score down. And then that speed is used not only for quarterback pressures, but making tackles, getting turnovers to give your offense even more opportunities to keep your defense off the field. So in my opinion, you're right. Absolutely. Run the football and give your defense a chance because running the football, that's what running the football does.
And how do you feel about the Colts possibly going out and getting another receiver? This might sound freaking crazy, but what if you think if they went out and got a guy like Julio Jones? Do you think
Oh,
that's out of the question?
I would not grab Julio. I don't think Julio is in the cards for Indy, because I don't think that I honestly I don't think the Falcons is going to give him up. I think they're going to want way too much.
Yeah, that's
He's
true.
getting on the back end of his career. They're going to want. I could see giving up a first for DeForest Buckner. He's still young, right? But for Julio, I don't know. Now if it was Ridley, maybe he's a little bit younger and he's spry, he's quick. I like Ridley, and I don't think he would demand as much of draft capital as what Julio Jones would. But I don't think the Falcons will end up giving up either one of them. But I don't know. I mean, if they do go out and get a draft, or if they go out to trade somebody wide receiver wise, I don't think we need it. But if they do, don't spend too much. Don't spend more than a 4th round pick on it.
Yeah, I get it. I'm just looking at the Ravens. I don't think we're running the ball against them. It's going to be a throwing game. I don't think it's going to be high scoring, but if you look at, the Bengals aren't the Colts, but I watched that full game, and Joe Mixon, he's a top 10 running back, I want to say, and he just could not even get past 4 yards. So the Colts, if they want to beat those good teams, they're going to need a guy that can just go out and make a play. Philip Rivers can put the ball up to him and he can go up and get it. And the Colts really don't have that guy. Michael Pittman and Paris Campbell are good young receivers, but I don't think they're going to be able to break through a defense and make maybe a game-winning play.
Marcus Johnson was showing a little bit of skills of that whole 50-50 ball catch ability last week. If Rivers can get his confidence in him, he's only had a week or two to play, and he's already shown that he's got some kind of connection with him. So the longer they play, maybe that will end up coming out a little bit with him. Doolin is a very fast guy. There's a possibility you might see him on the field a little bit more in the future as well. So I think the Colts are okay, but guys like Jones is going to cost too much. Antonio Brown is someone I don't want on the team at all.
Antonio Brown.
They're the whole, because his name's coming up because it's coming across week 9 right now, and that's when the suspension. So I would rather not have him because I don't want that rubbing off on the rest of the team. What are your thoughts on? Is there another guy out there that you've heard maybe a possibility? There's OBJ. What do you think of OBJ?
Yeah, I'd love to have Odell here, though. I think he's going to stay in Cleveland.
I do too.
He wanted to be there to begin with. So, but I've been hearing AJ Green a lot around the Colts. I think he would be a better fit. Julio, of course, that's not realistic. I just wanted to hear your take on that because Julio Jones is a generational talent, but we know he has the injury concerns. But AJ Green is a guy that he hasn't really done much this season. He's been getting targets, but he hasn't been doing anything with them. So if the Colts can go out and get him, he's a guy that is a deep threat. He's about 6'3". He can go up and get a ball. I think the Colts really could use that moving forward against these high caliber offenses that they're about to face.
The only question in my mind is, does AJ Green have the ability to separate still? That's my only issue.
Yeah, that's true.
His hands are unquestionable. His route running is unquestionable. I'm worried about his speed and his ability to separate because he was not able to separate. Those catches he was making against Xavier Rhodes and Rock Ya-Sin were like, they were under heavy traffic, right? Our defenders were wrapped all over him when he was catching these footballs, which you expect from AJ Green. But I don't know if he can get very good separation against even your second tier cornerbacks right now, and that makes me worried a little bit. FaZe brought up John Ross.
Just really quick with AJ Green, you have to realize that he missed a lot of football too. So as the weeks go on, he's going to get better. So
sure.
If you can buy him low, I feel like you have to for the Colts.
What are your thoughts on John Ross? The Bengals have straight up put him on the block and announced it. To me, I think John Ross is another Philip Dorsett, but
Yeah, I was just gonna say. I mean, we know what John Ross brings. He has the speed, just unquestionable athleticism. But Paris, what is the difference really between him and Paris Campbell right now? I mean,
well, both of them have had injury issues. But really, when Paris is on the field, he's shown he's a bigger receiver than John Ross. Paris is 6 foot, so he's average height rather than a small speedster. And other than that, I mean, they both had their injury issues. That's the problem is staying on the field. That's my thought.
Yeah, I do agree with him saying about jet sweeps. If we can mix in some plays like that, I think it would be very good for the offense, especially against a team like the Ravens coming up. You're going to need to mix in some different packages, but you don't need John Ross for that.
No,
they have personnel on the team to do that.
Oh yeah, I think, we got speed. I mean, there's multiple times when let's say Nyheim Hines is on the field. If he's in the slot, you can run a jet sweep with him. That's something else I want to bring up. Things that I want to see that happen more in the second half of the season. I would love to see more 2 running back formations. I would love to see it where you got Hines and Taylor on the field at the same time, right? This way it gives Rivers the option. Do I hand it up to Taylor so he's running it between the tackles? If they bring in everybody to try to stop that, then I could pull it in and punch it out to Hines on a sweep, or something like that. I think that we have the offensive line and the personnel at running back to be able to run a lot of those 2 running back running option plays for Philip Rivers to make decisions on. What do you think?
Yeah, and also Taylor and Hines bring such different skill sets to the table, so it would be something that you could mix in. I definitely wouldn't mind it at all.
Yeah. Anything else that your expectations for this after this 6 weeks? After we get back
right now, I'm happy to be 4-2. Of course, we'd love to be 5-1 or whatever, but still, you can't complain. We're in a position for a wild card spot. If the playoffs started today, we'd be there. I think the next few weeks, though, that's where it's gonna get interesting because you look at the Colts. Okay, they play the Lions, should be a winnable game. Then the Ravens, Titans, Packers, Titans, and even the Texans. As bad as I think they are, they're a team that they have Deshaun Watson and some Brandon Cooks and Will Fuller, so it's not going to be an easy game. So the Colts, this is a very difficult stretch. Though if they're as good as you think they are and I think they are, we'll see, man. This is going to be it these next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I think so too. The next, like you said, 5 or 6 weeks after that bye week, this is a very important time for the Colts to get healthy. It's a very big time, possibility of getting a lot of players back, including Leonard, Pittman, Teray. Getting some knowledge on Campbell. Hopefully he can stay healthy. I'd love to see him stay healthy for a while. I mean, that'd be nice. I'm really big on Campbell, though. I've seen what he can do when he's on the field and healthy. It's just staying healthy is the problem.
Yeah. For speedy receivers, it's going to be a problem often.
Yeah.
Even with T.Y. Hilton, it's a lot of similar injuries.
Yeah. All right. Well, okay. Dante Pettis was on the Washington with John Ross. Yeah. All right, guys. I would like to thank everybody that joined us here on YouTube and Sportscaster. Over here on Sportscaster, we have a ton of people. Winky Face 101. Thanks for the follow, by the way. JI678, Drew Tester. One Giant Podcast is actually Adam Armbrecht, who is one of the Sportscaster news analysts with me over on Sportscaster. Sammy Sand and Oglav. Bunch of guys over there, along with about 30 other people watching live over on Sportscaster. And then, of course, on YouTube, all you guys, Justice and Jason David, FaZe. Let's see. I'm just kind of scrolling through here because Brian, thank you guys. Mike Dinan, all you guys, thanks for joining the stream. Appreciate you. All the comments, questions. Was there any other questions or comments that you saw in the chat that you might want to address?
No, I was going through them pretty much the entire time.
Okay. I wasn't able to because I got so many different things that I'm trying to
Yeah.
keep going. Generally, I do, but this was a little bit different for me. Hey, man, I really appreciate you being here, Swaggy. This was actually pretty fun, pretty informative. So go ahead, remind people where they could find you exactly and exactly what you do on YouTube.
Yeah, so I make sports videos. It's kind of interesting because I am a Colts fan, but I don't like other teams in Indianapolis. So I'm not a Pacers fan or anything like that. So you'll find me making a video usually once a week after the game. I might make a video on trade targets, things like that. But yeah, if you want to find me there, it's just Swaggy. And my Instagram, once again, I don't have a personal Instagram, but my Twitter is on Morant Tape or Morant Wave. So if you guys want to find me there, you can and message me. Go for it.
All right. Well, thanks again for joining. Thanks everybody else for joining here. And if you're watching this, please smash that like button. Hit subscribe if you're not subscribed. Go over to his channel, subscribe to him. Go follow him on Twitter and Instagram. Don't forget to share this stream. If you're listening to this after the recording, thank you so much for listening to the featured podcast over on Sportscaster for Colts Law. And don't forget to share it as well yourself to your favorite social media. And until next time, I'm Lawrence Owen with Colts Law going over the bye week for the Indianapolis Colts of the week 6 of the 2020 NFL season with Swaggy. Have a good one.